PSV Eindhoven behind closed doors next Wednesday in the Champions League. And the Oldham manager John Sheridan will find out today if he's to be fined or serve a touchline ban after trouble 2 months ago against Tranmere.
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
Well, the weather's on the up from here on, with the skies already starting to break. We're starting to see some sunshine come through. I think you'll keep that for a portion of the afternoon before you cloud up as we head toward tea time. The wind is going to pick up, so it's a fairly blustery day, but your top temperature, 10 Celsius.
Have lunch with Allan Beswick.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Hi, all right. This is probably a backwards roundabout way of doing it, but tomorrow... Well, no, I would normally tell you what's on tomorrow when we got to tomorrow. Oh, it's beginning to sound like Annie. Tomorrow. I'll tell you what's on tomorrow. It's only a day to... Well, kill me, please. Yeah, tomorrow, you're not invited. You're invited on the wireless. You're not invited in the venue. You won't fit. We're going to Clouds 20-something or other. 3, I think. Clouds 23. The extravagant, because you've got to have a few bob to have a cocktail in there, I'll tell you. I won't be having one. We're going to Clouds 23. Therein, we will be trying to find out what the hell's going on in relation to the TIF proposals or congestion charge debate or whatever. We've got Graham Stringer on one side. He's the MP for Blakely, former leader of Manchester City Council, and we've got the current leader of Manchester City Council on t'other side, Sir Richard Leese. He's very much in favour of the TIF proposals. Graham Stringer appears to be dead set against. Well, is dead set against. And then there are all sorts of opinion leaders in the audience, an invited audience, all of whom have a view that they wish to express. We'll also have an academic there who will be hopefully non-partisan, and we'll have a look at some of the schemes that have been introduced around the globe and how successful or otherwise they have been. So that's the gist of it. The first hour, it's the panel and the questions from the floor from the interested parties. The idea is to, by using questions from the floor, to get the gist of all the idiosyncrasies that are going on. I mean, I got my leaflet the other day about what it'll mean for people in Wigan, but that doesn't tell me anything what it'll mean for people in Oldham, Rochdale, Stockport, Trafford, Tatton, whatever. It tells me none of that. It only tells me what's available to people in Wigan, which is fair enough. That's where I'll be casting my vote. Anyway, so that's the first hour. The second hour, of course, it's thee and me. As usual, back to the old routine. Thee and me talking about that specifically, but you know me, I'll let you talk about out. Today... Let's get back to normal. Today, we're doing whatever you want to do. That's fair, isn't it? I mean, every now and then, we come along and we say, well, look, let's do this today. And we sort of take control as if we had some right. Obviously, we have no such right. This is your bit. This is where you set the agenda, if indeed you choose to do. And you can do that right now. It's dead easy. Telephone number, if there's something you want to say about anything under the sun, that's fine by me. 0161 228 2255. You can communicate via the internet. The email address is radiomanchester@bbc.co.uk. And you can text 07786 206 951. Some of the things I've seen in the paper today, because I make a lot of little notes just so I know what page of the paper it's on when I get to it. But immigration was covered in the Sun. Criminal injuries compensation was covered. Sex with hookers could equal rape. BMP expose. Teen with gun gets bail. That was a headline in the Sun. I might get to that later. Pantomime, it's all ageing and fading stars these days. I don't know what John Thompson will think of that. He's doing the Opera House, isn't it? Oh, he's not in on Saturday either. We've got Anthony Crank in his stead on Saturday. This is interesting and quite startling. 4 at-risk children die in this country every week. That's 1 every 2 days. That's 1 every 2 days. So a kid will die today. An at-risk child will die today. And then another one will die on Saturday. And then another one on Monday. And another one on Wednesday. Blimey. I didn't realise it was that many, did you? Speeding, you've all been hearing about that this morning. It was just on the news with Anna. The speeding changes, or the punishments for speedings that's going to change. Ministers want to change the rules so that if you're caught speeding, you get a fine and 3 points on your licence. But if you're speeding at more than 20 miles per hour in excess of the regulated speed limit, so that's 50 in a 30, 40 in a 20, you can do the sums yourself, good, or 90 on the motorway, then you'll be fined a larger amount. That's the case currently. But instead of 3 points, you'll get 6. And we all know that if you get 12, you're automatically banned, or very nearly automatically banned. So 2 serious speeding charges, and you could be without your licence. There's a clairvoyance on the front page of the Manchester Evening News who's been advertising that she can see the future, but unfortunately she can't. Or at least she can't prove that she can, which is... Have you ever been to a clairvoyant? No, nor me. Yeah. I tried one once. I said I phoned her up and I said, I'm thinking of coming to see you. But she said, oh, really? When? And I said, well, if you don't know, you know, never mind. Yeah. There's a photograph and a comment on how much the returning officer's getting paid in the congestion charge boat. And the public, this is a chief constable from a police force down south. The public should stand up to yobs. Well, there's a guy on the front page of the Manchester Evening News who did that. And Harry Roberts is still in jail. He's been in jail now for 42 years, having been convicted all those years ago for murdering 3 police officers. Well, that's an awful lot of stuff. Laurie in Kingsley says, can I recommend John Sargent for a knighthood? Good heavens.
I know what you're thinking. How does an unparalleled talent like me, Paul Murden, have time to watch all the best television? All that jet-setting around on my rail pass, attending glamorous parties at the local leisure centre? Well, BBC iPlayer lets me catch up on my favourite shows like Little Dorrit and Spooks. When I've got a second to spare, of course. I really am very, very busy.
Don't miss the drama. Catch up on TV and radio programmes on your computer with BBC iPlayer, making the unmissable unmissable. Visit bbc.co.uk/iPlayer.
About 2 years ago, when they were trialling, that was a trail, they were trialling that iPlayer. They offered it to me, and I said, well, that sounds all right, we'll have a go at that. But unfortunately, it didn't work with Max, so I couldn't try it. So I've never got it right. It does work with Max now. It's all been launched. Well, at least I presume it does. Anyway, have you used it? I've never used it. I've no idea. Oh, I've got another question as well. It's about combi boilers. This is just for me, this. I'm not doing a service for it. Well, I am. I'm doing a service for me, but no one else. It's just for me. I've got a combi boiler. Gas. Actually, it's bottled gas, you know, tank gas. Yeah, that stuff. LPG. Well, that's fine. That's neither in nor there. And it's pretty damned efficient, let me tell you. Oh, God, yes, it's very, very good. Because you could only do combi boilers on gas and oil previously, but they've now got them working on electric combi boilers. Are they any good? Well, there's no one to ask, is there? If you ask the gas board, they're going to say, no, absolute tripe, aren't they? They're going to say. You ask the electric board, they're going to say, oh, yeah, they're fabulous, miles better than gas. But are they any good? Have you fitted any? Have you got one? I know. I'm just concerned. I just want to know. I just read in the paper the other day, I read an advertisement for them, and I thought, I wonder if they're any... I'm not getting one. I just wondered, are they any good? Well, I sit here every day listening to all your stuff. At least I can do is ask a question of my own. Go, blimey. Vinny in Salford says, now, there's been a lot said on your programme about this here congestion charge, but has anyone asked how much the government will give us if we reject the proposal? It's all right going on about the proposal and how right or wrong it might be with its all buzzing and ringing promise of extremely large amounts of money, but no one's had the gumption to say what will happen if we say bugger off with your carrot. They've still got to give us something. I'll bet that they'll still want to help us improve the transport system because of the threat to the economic growth of the city, and we all know whose pocket that will hit, don't we? Let's shout that from the rooftops and put it on loads of posters, eh? Why aren't anyone else going for it, i.e. Birmingham? That's a bigger city than ours, but do they have to pay or have all their details in a computer so that Big Brother can monitor their movements? Another thing, he says, if the government give 50 billion to the bankers, they can give us 5 without signing up, can't they? That's Vinny in Salford. Well, I can answer your question, Vinny, and that is that under the current system, now I don't know what the future will bring, and I've no desire to predict the outcome of the vote or even to influence which way you vote, but under the current system, if we as a community reject the TIF proposals, we won't get the money. That's how it stands. Now, that might change. I've no idea. You're predicting it will, and I understand the rationale behind your prediction, but the answer to your question is nothing. That's what they'll give us if we reject the TIF proposals. Remember, Birmingham and all the other cities were invited to apply. We're the only one that seems to, well, city regions, if you like, but we're the only one that seems to have done it. We're the only one that's in line for the money. But in order to get that money, as it stands presently, we have to accept the TIF proposals, which include the congestion charge. If we reject it, the current position is if we reject it, we don't get any of the money. Now, eventually, money will have to come from central government to sort out the traffic problems in Manchester, like it did all those years ago with Metrolink and one or two other enterprises, as it's gone to other cities as well. But that's how it stands at the moment. The current position is, if we vote no in the proposals, we don't get any of the money. I'm not attempting to influence your vote. I'm just answering that particular bit. Derek in Lee. Alan, oh dear. Continuing your Strictly Come Dancing theme, in The Guardian, the former Labour politico Derek Draper described his former boss, Peter Mandelson, as a fabulous dancer. Mandy has expressed an interest in following John Sargent onto the programme. Draper backs him up, saying Mandelson is surprisingly light on his feet. Methinks Mr. Draper is having a sly dig at his erstwhile employer. It was never a surprise to me, and I suspect nor to him, nor indeed to you. That's Derek Inley. I have no idea what you're implying. Heaven forfend. No idea at all. Anthony in Manchester. I work for a debt department for a subprime lender, and I hear people telling me that they've been to CAB and they're offering £1 a month, and when I complete an income and expenditure they have more available to pay creditors, for example. One customer had £259 available after all expenses were paid, but still the offer of £1 per month. Please can you tell your listeners that the CAB are not experts but volunteers, and when your house is at risk you should take expert advice. That's Anthony in Manchester. Well, I would tell them that if only it was true. Getting paid for doing a job doesn't make you an expert, it makes you a professional. It's not the same. The people at the Citizens Advice Bureau are trained to do precisely what it is they do. Now, I cannot say, because I'm not thus trained, I cannot say whether they would tell you to offer £1 per month when you could afford more. I have no idea. But what I can tell you is that the Citizens Advice Bureau staff are trained in the type of work they do. And many of the staff at Citizens Advice Bureaus throughout the country are full-time and professional anyway. But all of them, be they volunteer or not, are trained. So no, I can't tell you. What I can say, Anthony in Manchester, is if a person is in debt, A, don't ignore it, and B, don't go anywhere near those companies that advertise that they can get you £10,000, you can have a nice holiday and spend 5,000 quid paying off your debts. Don't go to any of them, because frankly they are not very nice often. Some are great, I'm sure. Some are tripe. Most of them, I've no idea. But you can get financial advice from a variety of places, free, gratis and for nought. Go to them. Just because they don't get paid for doing it doesn't mean that they're not very good. If you want evidence of that, well, try sitting on a sinking boat and waiting for a professional to come by. And when the amateurs turn up, say to them, "You, I'm not going with you, you're an amateur." Oh, the amateurs to which I refer, by the way, and therefore, in your view, Anthony, not very good at it, the amateurs to which I refer are the Lifeboat Association. Or if you're in a car crash and you're lying there with blood oozing from your system on the waterway, when the helicopter comes, do bear in mind they're not employees, so don't get in that either. Just gone 12 on BBC Radio Manchester. Anna Dawson's got the headline.
2 teenagers have been locked up for life for murdering a 28-year-old father of 3 in Bolton. 18-year-old Jason Bolton and 16-year-old Andrew Smith were both found guilty of the murder of Asaf Mahmood Ahmed at an earlier hearing at Manchester Crown Court. They kicked and beat him outside the Derby Ward Labour Club last December. The Cheshire drugs giant AstraZeneca is planning to cut 1,400 jobs. Around 250 of them will be in Macclesfield. And the man accused of kidnapping schoolgirl Shannon Matthews says he took her out to parks during the police hunt for her. Michael Donovan and Karen Matthews deny kidnap and false imprisonment. Manchester's weather: dry, bright and windy, highs of 10 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
And it's good news in Hale. Ashley Road has now been reopened after the crossing was blocked off. At the moment, the crossing now operation around Heath Road, so no reported problems. Train services still running to normal around Hale Station. And also good news in Macclesfield. Mill Street and Sunderland Street has reopened after that earlier police incident surrounding A536. That's Low Street too. And the M6 northbound there, we still got a lane closed on the Essex Slip Road due to an overturned vehicle around junction 21A. That's the M62 Gropt interchange. Still down to 50 miles per hour, and it is causing a few delays around there. If you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Mark Blackman.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Steve in Warrington. Hi, Steve.
Hello, Alan, are you all right?
I'm not bad at all.
Good. Just about the chap that rung up about debt management plans.
Yes.
These people that help you out, CAB, and I'm actually on one with CCCS, which is a credit. They're fantastic. I went to one that you pay to do it for you, and they came out with, oh, yeah, you've got X amount left. And I thought, well, I'm not really happy with that. I went to CCCS, which is a charity, and they said that it's ridiculous, the debt management plan he's put you on, because you are cut that much to the bone, you will not be able to live, because these people that are being paid to do it for you are taking their cut out of your money.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
CCCS, which is the CAB put me onto, actually saved my house for me, because they came up with, I had a bad arrears on the mortgage,
yes.
And the mortgage company's not the most easiest to deal with, and they told me about the Cheltenham and Gloucester versus Norgan case law, which is absolutely fantastic. And I think, really, I don't know whether you're familiar with it.
I am indeed familiar with it.
It's absolutely fine. If you can tell your people, that, your listeners about it, it saved my house, and it's actually put me in a lot better financially. It's taken me 12 months to get where I am today, but it's made everything a damn sight easier, and they also saved my marriage to my wife.
Which, you usually only have a marriage to your wife, but let's not be picky. Or your husband, if you're that way inclined,
Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry, that was mischievous of me. But yes, I mean, I don't understand why anybody goes to. Well, I do understand. A, they're confused, and B, they fall for the adverts, and we've all done that in our lives, haven't we?
Well, yeah.
But they go along to these debt management plan companies, and frankly, they end up paying good money which they've not got for advice that they frankly would be better not taking.
Yeah, well, it's like I say that my mother used to have, you're throwing good money after bad.
Absolutely so.
Because they're only in it to feather their own nest, and the unfortunate thing is they're making money out of people's desperation, but this is the way the world is. But I've got nothing but praise for the CAB and the CCCS that are both charities, and the information they give you is absolutely fantastic, and they do their utmost to help you. And it
All
doesn't
right,
cost
mate.
you a single penny.
Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. So there you are. And Alan, the best advice given, in my opinion, is free and is given from the CCCS. And that's once again Anthony in Manchester. If it's the same Anthony, that's quite bizarre. But there you are. Thank you very much indeed for that. Have you ever had advice about debts? Have you ever had investment advice? How did that work out? Because I always find that a bit weird. Alan, have a look at Hansard for the 5th of November. OK, here we go. This is a quotation from Hansard given to me, sent to me by, or purporting to be, but this, I'll take his word because I'm a sucker. This is John Leach, who is, of course, the Liberal Democrat MP for Wythenshawe, or Withington, isn't it? My apologies. Anyway, Mr. Leach, will the Prime Minister ensure that in the event of a no vote, the people of Greater Manchester will have the opportunity to come back with an improved scheme without the concern that the government might take the money away? This is what the Prime Minister said. I know that the voting paper has options for a yes vote and a no vote, but I'm afraid that there is no option for I don't know vote. In the event of a no vote, it would be up to the Greater Manchester authorities to decide whether they wanted to do further work on the proposals. The government are in principle prepared to contribute, as it said, £1.5 billion towards the Greater Manchester package, but that is dependent on the broad scope, maybe I made a judgment there, the broad scope and nature of the package remaining the same. If Greater Manchester came back with a revised proposition, we would need to assess it on its merits. And that's summarised by Martin as so: vote no, and we could get a better offer. Well, yes, or we could get no offer at all. It depends on what you think the Prime Minister was implying when he gave the answer he gave. So there you are. 0161 228 2255. Tim in Worsley, I wonder if Robert Kilroy Silk is considering joining the Baron of Hartlepool and Foy on Strictly Come Dancing while receiving pay for representing their constituents. That probably means something to somebody. Anything that involves Robert Kilroy Silk living in hardship and eating strange things is all right by me. I just don't see why I have to have it on my telly. Come to think of it, I don't have to have it on my telly, and so I don't. I'm not a fan of Get Me Out of Here. It's not my cup of tea, but it's all right for some. If that's what they want, I've no problem with that. Let them have it. But it's not for me. No, not for me at all. I've never found it entertaining. Yeah. And Anne says, remember, the Titanic was built by professionals. Noah's Ark was built by an amateur. Yes, the other thing to remember, Anne, is that the Titanic existed. But I enjoyed that. That was all right. We enjoyed that. Hello, Alan, says David. I don't know how much it costs to give milk to children in Rochdale hospitals, but if they're really in need, I would give anything that I can give. They are our future. We are nothing more than them. That's related to the story where Rochdale Infirmary has decided that it will no longer provide the reconstituted milk for babies in the hospital. But that's, of course, because they're trying to encourage mothers to breastfeed their children. So they're saying, well, the breast milk comes for free. You can obviously feed your children on that. It's the best of all. But we're not going to give away formula. If you choose to have formula, then you have to pay for it, because we've got to go out and buy it. And I think, on the face of it, that seems like a perfectly sensible decision. And, David, you are correct when you say children are our future. We, as a species, are nothing without them. You're absolutely correct, which is why I suspect Rochdale Infirmary is doing its level best to get children to be breastfed, because surprisingly, human milk is far better for humans than cow's milk. And now, I know. It's extraordinary when you put it like that, isn't it? Human milk, which is the best milk for your child? That comes out of another species, or that comes out of a human? In the case of a mother, we call her you. Of course. Human milk is better. How could it be any other way? But there you go. Alan, what's going on next to the new Tesco that opened in Gorton a few weeks back? The A57 has been down to one lane due to the roadworks, but there have been no workmen in sight for 2 weeks. Is this some kind of archaeological dig or something? Have they found Tutankhamun's mum under the new Tesco? A new pyramid, perhaps? Congestion charge ballot is looming, and everywhere you look, roadworks without workmen. I want to know, says Steve in Manchester, if any other listeners who drive the same route year in, year out, have noticed this well-timed congestion. That's Steve in Manchester. Alan, the best advice I got was off my mother. If you can't afford it, don't get it. That's Jane. And that's very, very good, of course. Very, very good. However, the problem that some people face is they get it when they can afford it, like buying a house. People buy a house because they've got a job, they're comfortably off, and the rest of it. They buy a house, and then they lose their job, and that's where the problems begin. Now, for others, of course, it is mere sheer profligacy that puts them into financial trouble, and it's hard to feel sympathy for them, but they still do need all the help that they can get. Anthony in Manchester's back on. Yes, it is the same, Anthony. CCCs and CAB are different companies. Indeed they are. In fact, come to think of it, neither of them are companies. One of them is certainly a charity, or, in the case of some Citizens Advice Bureaus, companies limited by guarantee, which is a legal term to cover a particular kind of constitution under which a charity operates. Don't forget that if one is lost in the hills, the Mountain Rescue turn up to help. Send them away as well, because they're all amateurs. This is Paul in West Horton. We're going to get a list now, aren't we? We're going to spend the day. We're going to spend the lunchtime getting this whole list of amateurs who are extremely good at their job. Extremely good at their jobs. Oh, well, worse things can happen to you. Go on, let's do it. Who are the best amateurs knocking about? And if anyone comes on and says Manchester City, we'll be so offended, won't we? Yeah, quite. 0161 228 2255. If you've something to say, feel free. And Ace says Mandelson has always known how to sidestep and keep his highly paid job. How the hell this guy has kept his job in our government, I'll never know. Yes, I do. It's full of lefties like you. Well, thank you very much, Alan, but then I suppose we have to point out that he didn't manage to keep his job. In fact, he's celebrated as the man who keeps losing it, isn't he? He's lost his job in government twice. He was touch and go for a while in Europe, and now he's back, but he didn't manage to keep his job. He did, in fact, manage to lose it. Brian in Gorton. Hiya.
Good morning, Alan.
Good morning, sir.
Gorton Tesco's.
Yeah?
There is a JCB, a small digger, a company vehicle with cops on the side of it, and 6 men working.
6 men?
Yep, 6 of them. But the JCB driver's asleep.
Well, you do a lot of that. No, to be fair, you do a lot of that when you're a JCB driver. You only work when there's stuff they need lifting.
Exactly. Well, that's what he's waiting for.
Oh, well, that's all right.
There are 6 people working on those works.
Well, there you are. So whoever that was, casting a foul calumny, a foul and wicked calumny onto the roadworks at Gorton Tesco.
Correct. Can I throw something in, Alan?
Oh, God, yes.
Right. The diesel and petrol situation.
Yes.
This morning, on Stockport Road, coming down from Hazel Grove to Cheetham Hill, the petrol's gone down to 90p.
Yeah.
It was 92 yesterday.
Oh, blimey.
Right, it's down to 90p. But the diesel is exactly the same as it was everywhere on that route, but they've all dropped it by a penny and 2p
a
litre on petrol. And I'm just wondering why we are not getting the reductions on the diesel when we're the only country in Europe that charges more for diesel than petrol?
I don't know.
No, exactly, but it's one of those trick questions that you go anywhere else in the world and diesel is cheaper than petrol at parts of the UK. And it's 15p difference, no, 17p difference now on the A6.
Well, I've no idea why diesel, there are all sorts of historic arguments, I've no idea why diesel is more expensive than petrol. But you talk about diesel users, well, of course, most diesel users are companies, by far, and so they'll get some kind of tax relief on it, so it may be related to that, I'm not altogether sure.
Well, I bought a car on the understanding that the diesel was more greener, shall we say. I'm not into green, but I was told at the time it was, and I paid more for the car than I would for a petrol, and since then I've suffered dramatically more than a petrol driver.
Well, I'm not sure that you have you? I mean, in some respects you have, but by buying a diesel vehicle and paying the extra for that, because it costs more to buy one up front, and I don't understand why that's the case, but by having a diesel vehicle, your miles per gallon, as we still insist on calling it, are considerably greater than the equivalent in petrol, and the what you might call the longevity of the engine is considerably greater. I've had a number of cars that have done 50 and 60,000 miles, and frankly after that they start sounding like a bag of spanners. You buy a brand new diesel, it sounds like a bag of spanners when you get it, but it runs without hesitation for 100,000 miles. So there are swings and roundabouts all the time, aren't they?
Well, there are, but if you've got to go back to when diesel and petrol was 70p a litre, there was a penny difference. But now there's 17p difference. Someone along the line, and I think maybe the Chancellor is making a few bob on the VAT.
I think it went the other way, didn't it? It's not the VAT, because the VAT is the same for both, 17.5%. We have universal VAT in this country. So it's not the VAT, but it might be the tax. But I don't think it's... The problem is you're missing a step. Yes, they were a penny apart way back when. But of course, then, it was 4-star and diesel. What the Chancellor did when they brought in unleaded, to encourage people to use unleaded, he reduced the tax on unleaded, or increased it by less, and created a difference between unleaded and 4-star. But he didn't do that with diesel. So unleaded is cheaper, and that's virtually the only petrol that's sold now. So I think that's the history of it. But if I'm wrong, Brian, you can bet your bottom dollar that some miserable Torag will come on and put me right.
Well, it was, because when they brought in unleaded, there was only ever a penny difference as well.
Well, they changed that, though, didn't they? That's what I'm saying. You're on the way out, you, aren't you? It won't be bothering you much longer.
Correct, yeah.
Good on you, Brian.
That's to 21.
by some measure, I suspect. Good on you, matey. Have a good day. Cheers. On the discussion of the best amateurs, I can tell you who are the worst professionals, and that's the England Rugby League team. I have a good mind to throw bricks at them at Manchester Airport when they return. That's Chris in St Helens. Yes, they're not very good, are they? But there you are. And then, I've lost this now. Oh, dear, it's gone all over. Yeah, Lifeboat Crew. That's Tommy Mosley. Yeah, they're cheap as well, yeah. Very cheap. Alan, never mind City. Warrington are bad pros and poor amateurs. That's David in Sale. The traffic lights have been adjusted at McVitie's about 7 weeks ago. Cynical, eh? This has created congestion in time for the vote. You're a very cynical lot, aren't you? You think the councils up and down the land have gone to all that trouble? Just come along and dug holes in the road where holes were not necessary. What shall we do with the A6? Dig it up. Why? There's nothing wrong with it. I know, but dig it up. I don't think so. Yeah, I consider myself in the higher echelons of the BBC Cynics squad, but I don't think local authorities are going round digging up roads just to make it crowded, just so that when it's crowded, we then have the situation of, oh, look, it's busy, let's vote for the congestion charge, it'll make it not busy. No, 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 even I will not go that far in the cynicism stakes. No, you're having me on... What is it, the Cockney? Are you having a laugh? That's what they say. Are you having a laugh? I think they do. Christopher in Middleton, if the change is about speeding and not about raising revenue, but are about safety, why don't they install road cameras to film tailgaters and idiots on roundabouts who don't indicate, then find them and give them points. I've never been done for speeding in 35 years of driving, but regularly get tailgated on roads that were once dual lanes but have now been reduced to one lane to create congestion. There's that cynicism again. Look, I don't think any local authority in Greater Manchester is guilty presently of creating unnecessary congestion merely to influence the vote in the congestion charge, because congestion and roadworks are just as bad in the areas where the local authority have declared themselves to be dead set against the congestion charge. If the theory you're trying to sell me is that, you know, those that are in favour, like Wigan, they're dead in favour of it, so they go and knacker all the roads in Wigan to make everybody in Wigan vote for it, then why are, for example, Trafford, who are not in favour of it, why are they not going out and making sure all the roads are hokey-dory? Exactly. So, come on, cynicism to one side, please. Just gone 20 to 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Anna Dawson.
2 teenagers have been jailed for life for murdering a 28-year-old father of 3 in Bolton. One of them filmed himself saying the words "eyes of a killer" into his mobile after the attack. The Cheshire drugs giant AstraZeneca is planning to cut 1,400 jobs. Around 250 of those will be in Macclesfield. And the man accused of kidnapping schoolgirl Shannon Matthews says he took her out to parks during the police hunt for her. Michael Donovan and Karen Matthews deny kidnap and false imprisonment. Manchester's weather: dry, bright and windy this afternoon, highs of 10 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Good news on the M6 northbound now. There's a lane reopened, the exit slip road. All the lanes now clear after that overturned vehicle, which is now being removed. And junction 21A, that's the M62 Croft interchange. We've still got a problem in Pollard Street, though, in Manchester city centre. The A662 still closed at the moment around Malta Street and Great Anco Street. There is a diversion in place by Every Street. Public transport is looking good at the moment. Just checking on live departures. But if you do want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Mark Blackman.
BBC Radio Manchester, sports with Ian Cheeseman.
Football news on the way in just a moment, but India have taken a 3-0 lead in the one-day series against England after winning this morning's match by 16 runs using the Duckworth-Lewis method. Play was suspended early due to bad light and the ground's floodlights weren't turned on at the end. Much of the frustration of the England captain, Kevin Peterson.
Before the series, apparently they said that you can't use lights during the day games and you've got to go with the rules. It is very frustrating for the spectators. It's very frustrating for us because I think if we'd got a couple of more wickets there, we could have been really close to winning this fixture and keeping the series well open. But to go 3-0 down is really hard now not to lose this series.
Yeah. On to football, and the Bolton striker Hyder Helgeson has joined Queen's Park Rangers on loan until the end of January. Helgeson has struggled with injuries since moving to the Wanderers from Fulham last July. Manchester City could bring in a goalkeeper on loan to cover the injury absences of Joe Hart and third choice Richard Martin. The latest on Hart is he could return as soon as a fortnight. Here's manager Mark Hughes.
We've been given permission if we want to bring in a goalkeeper on loan. We'll have a look and see what's out there. Obviously, it will be just a short-term situation. It's not as acute the situation now, obviously, because Joe's fitness is likely to be resolved quicker than we initially thought.
Ghana's Football Association are mulling over a move to try to lure the Manchester United striker Danny Welbeck to represent them on the international stage. The 17-year-old has made headlines this week when he scored a spectacular goal in the 5-0 win against Stoke City. The former commercial director of Manchester United, Andy Anson, has been appointed chief executive of England's bid for the 2010 World Cup. The Oldham manager, John Sheridan, is facing an FA disciplinary hearing in Manchester today. His charge of improper conduct relates to a match at Tranmere 2 months ago when he was sent to the stands for allegedly abusing the referee. Latics striker midfielder Danny Whittaker is close to a return to action at Southend on Saturday. He's missed 2 games through injury. Oldham's assistant manager, Kevin Mayer, has real belief the Latics can emulate something he achieved with Southend, promotion to the Championship.
I think there's definitely the quality. What you've got to have is belief that you can do it. You know, look at what we did early in the season, went to Leeds and won. So there's nothing to be afraid of in this division, I don't think. And once you realise that, then, you know, you get the belief in the squad. You know, anything's possible. There's a lot of teams going to be challenging for the league, but if you can get consistency, then there's no no doubt we can challenge.
And of course, Kevin Mayer isn't the assistant manager of Oldham Athletic. That's Tommy Wright, but that was Kevin Mayer speaking. The Rochdale manager, Keith Hill, has told BBC Radio Manchester they need to find one missing ingredient to make sure they keep challenging at the top of League Two. You have to go back to the opening day of the season to find the last time Dale kept a clean sheet, and Hill says it's vital that changes.
Very. You know, it wins championships. We're scoring a lot of goals, but there'll be a time where we need to win 1-0. Current form, we've got away with conceding goals because at the minute we're winning 3-2, we're winning 3-1, 6-1, etc., etc. So it's important that we, you know, convert performances into clean sheet performances as well.
And Ricky Hatton's trainer, Floyd Mayweather Sr., has poured scorn on the American Paolo Magliani ahead of Saturday's fight, saying he poses no threat whatsoever. Mayweather Sr. added that the British public should expect to see a new and improved Hatton in Las Vegas. Ricky himself says, apparently with a twinkle in his eye, that he's back. Hatton fights Magliani in Las Vegas this weekend and says he's been training harder than ever for this fight.
I've been working on new things, and if you don't do things in the gym, you're not going to do it in the ring. And that's what I've done in this camp, and I felt I've not done for a couple of years. And I'm not just saying it. Saturday night, as God's my judge here now, you will see a more improved and the best Ricky Hatton.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
On Saturday afternoon, it's a 3 o'clock kickoff. Unusually for Manchester City, we've got commentary on that game and reporters at all the other local action.
BBC Radio Manchester.
3 o'clock kick-off on a Saturday? What the hell's gone wrong? Don't you remember when they all used to be like that? All the games used to kick off at the same time. You used to watch that thing on the telly. I don't remember what it was. It was like a stick with a cross on the top and some very stirring band music. Do you remember that? Yeah, they were all over by then. And you sat there and that bloke read out the pools, and you used to be able to guess. You thought you were right clever, didn't you? You used to be able to guess whether it was a win or a lose or a draw because of the way he read them out. Oldham 7. Yeah, I don't think he ever said that. Oldham 7. Manchester United 0. Or it was Oldham 7. Manchester United 8. Oldham 7. Manchester United 7. You could work it out. I could even do it. I can do it after all these years. I can still do it. I could be the voice. I could be the voice. If only they had a voice. They don't have a voice anymore, do they? And they used to pretend. They used to pretend, didn't they, that they were coming up off the teleprinter. What a tosh that was. There was a bloke next door typing them in. They know. They think we're stupid, they do. Alan, let's leave the roadworks theory to the cynical amongst us. I want to know, when the car numbers dwindle, as per the whole crux of the congestion charge, how will the loan be paid back? Council tax increase? And if you look on BBC Manchester website, the MapTube link shows 8% of people will work or shop elsewhere if the charge comes in. How can this be good for Manchester? Well, you must make your predictions. I'm not saying it's true. David in Crumpsall. Good morning. I'm not saying it's true, but when fuel was shooting up in price recently and diesel was going up faster, the stated rationale behind it was that there was a shortage of diesel refining capacity. That is true. That is what was said. Tameside Council have Askham. That's Roy in Oldham, which is quite funny because the leader's called Roy Oldham. And here we go. John in Stockport. Diesel is a byproduct of petrol production and is cheaper to produce. It should be at least 10 pence cheaper than petrol. Well, if it's a byproduct, it's not cheaper to produce. It costs exactly the same. In fact, it costs more to produce. Because if it's a byproduct of petrol, then it's either costing exactly the same amount, because you produce both. One is a consequence of the other, but you're producing both. Or you get the diesel byproduct and then you have to do work on it to make it viable for motor cars, which means it's costing more. So the arithmetic of your logic is suspect. And here's one that we get from time to time, dead easy. Dave says, how do petrol stations get away with charging 0.9 pence per litre, or a proportion of a pence in the price per litre, when the smallest coin of the realm is 1 penny? Dave, simple. You cannot buy a litre of petrol. When you go into the petrol station, you buy it by flow, as it were. You pay for the amount you take. And you can't take a litre. You won't be able to. It won't click on that bit. So you buy... It's not like when you go in the pub. You go in the pub, you buy a pint of beer. Then it's a pint, and it has to be. Or you buy a tot of whiskey. It's a tot, and it has to be. That specific measure. But you don't do that with petrol. You don't go in and say, can I have a pint, please? You say, can I have a quid's worth, or 5 quid's worth, or 50 quid's worth, or whatever. So you buy it by quantity, so they can make the price whatever they wish. Paul in Salford. Hiya, Paul.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I spoke to you a while ago on 2 topics on 2 separate occasions about people speeding and also drink drivers. If we can come back to the speeding issue, I just can't get my head around it, mate, why people actually feel the need to speed around.
Well, neither can I, really.
But, for example, I don't know whether you know the Salford area, you probably do. Trinity Way, Salford is a dual carriageway with a 30 limit. It stretches from, like, Chapel Street past the arena and further up towards the Green Quarter. Now, it's a 30 limit, and I see people doing a lot more than 30, probably 40 and 50 miles an hour. You know, there's pedestrian crossings and God knows what there, and I find that when you are doing 30, you stay within the law, you do tend to get people tailgating, especially on that stretch of road, and the other one is Trafford Road, Odsall. It's a 30 limit again. But I find that when you do stick to the limit, which I take pride in the fact that I do, people seem to get closer and closer and closer to you. I don't know what it is, mate.
Well, I don't know either, other than they are impatient.
Why impatient, though?
Well,
for what reason?
One is impatient out of one's nature. There's never a reason for impatience. They are impatient people. They seem to think that the journey they're embarked upon is very, very important, and they're very, very important, and they've got to get there very, very quickly, even if they're only going to see the granny.
Yeah, the problem with that one is if they kill somebody en route, then they're going to get there an awful lot slower.
Well, yes, indeed. I didn't say they were wise or that they had an ape of a sense. I said they were impatient.
Yeah.
If we work it all out before we do something, then very few accidents would happen and few things would be done wrongly. But unfortunately, we as a species don't do it.
That's right, and the same applies to, like, people driving. They carry on drinking and driving and killing people. I don't know, mate. It's just beyond me.
Well, what do you think of the government's suggestion this morning that what they're going to do is if you're found speeding, if you're convicted of speeding, then you'll get your normal 3 points under fine, but if you're speeding by more than 20 miles per hour above the limit, then the fine will be greater, as it is presently, but you'll get 6 points instead of 3.
I would say that if the traffic police come down to Trinity Way, along with Silk Street, where they do a fine job because there's a school down there, but if they come down to Trinity Way, they'll catch an awful lot of people being awarded 6 points.
No, well, I mean, well, okay, but will it? Do you think the awarding of 6 points instead of 3 for serious, not that any of them are not serious, but for serious breaches, or should we say extravagant breaches, do you think the awarding of 6 points rather than 3 will reduce the number of people speeding by that much?
I hope so if it comes in, and I also hope that it's going to educate people and ultimately save lives.
Well, indeed. Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. Graham in Bolton asks a question that I didn't even know existed, but there you are. Bury Football Club always used to kick off at 3:15 in the old days. Why? Does anybody know? No, neither do I.
Mornings sound better with Eamon O'Neill and Diane Oxford.
Eamon and Diane.
He's got a funny smile, John Sargent, hasn't he?
Oh, he's so sweet. Stop it.
I know, I'm being affectionate.
Are you?
Yes.
Are you now?
Well, no, hang on a minute. John Sargent, I knew him when he was just John Private. I've known him a long time.
Eamon and Diane and you.
Paolo's in Rochdale. Hello, morning to you.
What do you have?
The fine glove of Ricky Hatton. Got it from a charity bash at the opening in February this year.
In an auction?
It was, yes.
Were you absolutely desperate to get your hands on it?
Or were you absolutely plastered when you were bidding?
Probably both.
Pick me!
The station with Eamon and Diane for breakfast. We're overgoverned by too many rules and laws. Back tomorrow morning from 6 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Bernard in Denton. Hiya, Bernard.
Hello, Alan. I've spoke to you before about the road congestion charge in Alan.
Yeah.
The chaps who rang in this morning about the roadworks, I personally think it's quite correct. I know you think it's cynicism, but I think it's a bit naive not to think it. They've had Deansgate partly closed, Peter Street partly closed, Nelson Street partly closed, they closed Pollard Street, and I don't know if you've been up Hyde Road near where the new Tesco is, but there's down to a single lane. Now, there's curbs and plastic barriers all over the road. There's nobody working on it, yet they're telling us now that it won't be finished until 2009. Now, I personally think it's a bit,
Okay, your view is as valid as anyone else's, including very nearly mine. But I've been driving into Manchester for 21 years, virtually every day for 21 years. And frankly, it's always been a chunky journey, depending on the time of day. But there have always been roadworks all over the place. I'm not altogether sure that there are more now than there were. Well, when I first started driving into Manchester 21 years ago, it was chaos, absolute chaos, because of course they were doing all the work on the sewers. And then we got all that sorted out, and 2 or 3 years after that they started doing work on the Metrolink, and once again it was absolute chaos. Then about 4 or 5 years ago, was it, when they redid all the one-way systems in Manchester, that was a complete and utter flaming nightmare for a while. So the idea that congestion is being manufactured by the councils, the 2 cities and the 8 towns around Greater Manchester, I don't think there's any evidence for it.
Yeah, but what I mean, Alan, is I can believe it if you see them working on it. But when they're not working on it, and then they tell you it won't be finished till 2009, which is in the case of Hyde Road, they've got signs up saying that. I just think it's a bit laughable, really.
Well, it depends on what they're doing, really, doesn't it?
Well, I know, but they've got to be doing something, haven't they? I mean,
well, they don't have to be doing something. It is often the case that you do some work, and then you have to go further up the road and do some more there or whatever, and you know that others are coming along, you know that you're going to have to dig it up again in 3 weeks' time or whatever. There is often jobs that take a long time and don't require somebody actually working on them constantly. That's the nature of civil engineering, isn't it?
Right, well, the second thing, Alan, which is the main thing I rang, actually, on BBC yesterday, there was an Alan Manning who rang up from the TUC. I don't know whether you were in the union. By listening to you over the years, I get that you were in the union sometime. But this chap from the TUC say he is in agreement with the congestion charge. Now, can you believe that a member of a union who represents workers, who looks after their conditions and wages, can turn around and say that some of his members, more than likely, are going to be paying £100 a month to go to work?
Well, it's not for me to say that Alan Manning is right or wrong. Alan Manning is the regional director of the TUC, as you rightly say. The argument for, and I'm not putting it, the argument for the congestion charge, the TIF proposals, is that there will be a lot more buses available in Greater Manchester. All of them will be driven by working people. All of them will be making a wage that they're currently not making now. All the people who make those buses will have work. The congestion charge will require various construction jobs to be done, and the people who do them, he hopes, will be his members, the trade union members. So he thinks, he's believed the argument that the TIF proposals will create jobs. I'm not saying they will, but he's saying, yes, I agree that it will, and therefore I'm in favour.
Yeah, I know. I can understand.
Well, that's why he's saying
it. But all I'm saying is, when I see all these buses driving around, some of them have got 2 and 3 people on, and I fail to see how they can justify all the buses, and emissions, and
that's fair enough. It's very hard to justify every journey every time, obviously. Bernard, thank you very much. Sorry to cut you short.
Put the kids to bed, turn the lights down low, grab a glass of wine, and get ready for Dirty Thursday tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
0161228 2255 if you've something to say today. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and of course the text number 07786 206 951.
95.1 FM,
DAB Digital Radio,
and the World Wide Web.
This is Manchester.
BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, 2 teenagers who beat a father of 3 to death in Bolton are jailed for life, and 250 jobs are going in Macclesfield.
And England's cricketers are left in the dark and 3-0 down.
Well, this afternoon is mostly cloudy and mild, but it is going to be breezy, with top temperatures of 11 Celsius.
And the A662 Pollard Street inbound in town still closed around Malta Street and Great Ancoats Street.
Good afternoon, I'm Anna Dawson. 2 teenagers who kicked and punched a man to death as he sat on the steps of a nightclub in Bolton have both been jailed for life. After the attack, one of the boys, who was just 15 at the time, filmed himself on his mobile saying the words, "eyes of a killer." Matt Trewern reports.
16-year-old Andrew Smith and his 18-year-old friend Jason Bolton, both from Dean, attacked Asif Mahmood Ahmed outside the Derby Ward Labour Club last December. He'd been beaten, kicked, and had had his head stamped on. Witnesses say they'd also heard the youths using racist language. When police found his body, he was clutching his asthma inhaler. After the attack, Smith filmed himself saying the words, "eyes of a killer," into his mobile phone. Passing sentence for the murder, the judge described the attacks as callous, unprovoked, and lacking in humanity.
The Cheshire drugs giant AstraZeneca is planning to cut 1,400 jobs. Around 250 will be in Macclesfield. The bulk of those cuts will be when they close 3 factories in Spain, Belgium and Sweden, with the jobs going by 2013. The government wants drivers caught doing more than 20 miles an hour over the speed limit to get 6 points on their licence instead of 3. The parents of 2 brothers from Partington who were killed by drink-driving footballer Luke McCormack say it's too little, too late. Most people we spoke to in Bolton Town Centre reckon there should be a zero-tolerance approach to dangerous driving.
Somebody drinks and drives and causes accidents, they should get the most, the most penalty that they could get.
I mean, some people can take it more than others, but where do you make a rule on that? You can't. So it's got to be sort of one for all, isn't it?
No alcohol at all, definitely. Too much of a risk.
Police are hunting a man who sexually abused a teenager on the back seat of a bus as it travelled through Farnworth. It happened last Friday on the number 22 bus, which goes from Bolton to Stockport via the Trafford Centre. Detectives say the 15-year-old victim was so frightened by what was happening to him, he was unable to move. It looks like the money crisis is still biting. Sales on the high street dipped by 0.1% last month, but that's much less than expected. It comes as big stores announce surprise sales to try to get people spending money. The man accused of kidnapping schoolgirl Shannon Matthews says he took her out to parks during the police hunt for her. Michael Donovan also told police Shannon's mum, Karen Matthews, had offered him money to look after the child. When he realised she'd been reported missing, he said he wanted to take her back, but he was frightened. He and Shannon's mother, Karen Matthews, deny kidnap and false imprisonment. A local MP wants to see more school leavers from Stockport applying to top universities like Manchester. The Labour MP Anne Coffey's encouraging colleges and universities to work together to bring the numbers up.
Many young people in my constituency do not expect or aspire to go to university. However, we have a very excellent college of further education. What more can my right honourable friend do to encourage links between the college and neighbouring universities in Manchester so that young people in my constituency will apply?
BBC Radio Manchester Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Well, another defeat for England in India. The hosts have won the third one-day international by 16 runs using the Duckworth-Lewis method. It ended early because of bad light, with India on 198 for 5, chasing England's 240. It was agreed before the series that the floodlights couldn't be used. Manchester City could bring in a goalkeeper on loan to cover the injury absences of Joe Hart and third-choice Richard Martin. The latest on Hart is he could be back in a fortnight. Ghana's FA are mulling over a move to try and lure Manchester United striker Danny Welbeck to represent them on the international stage. Former commercial director of Manchester United, Andy Anson, has been appointed chief executive of England's bid for the 2018 World Cup. He'll take up his new role in January. Bolton striker Heide Helguson has joined QPR on loan until the end of January. Helguson has struggled with injuries since moving to the Wanderers from Fulham last July. Oldham manager John Sheridan will find out today if he's to be fined or serve a touchline ban after trouble 2 months ago against Tranmere. And Ricky Hatton's trainer Floyd Mayweather Sr. has spiced up Saturday's fight in Vegas, claiming Paulie Malignaggi poses no threat whatsoever. He also says the British public should expect to see a new and improved hitman.
If he poses no threat, why is he gone all that way to fight a nobody?
BBC Radio Manchester, satellite weather with Heather Stott.
Well, this afternoon is going to be mostly cloudy and it's going to be breezy as well. We've got a moderate west to northwesterly wind developing. We're going to see some occasional light rain and drizzle, but many of us will get away with a dry afternoon with a little bit of sunshine from time to time. Top temperatures this afternoon, 11 Celsius.
It's a complete reverse of the PR lie, isn't it? Normally in boxing, oh yeah, he's a really, like all them people that lad from Bolton fought, Amir Khan. They're all brilliant, oh, they're all fantastic, it could be really, really bad. And they were all naff and he beat them all, and then turns out one of them was actually quite good and thrashed him.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones. 0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Right. We're going to have a bit of science now. Dave from Woodley says diesel comes from crude oil, just like petrol. They separate at different temperatures. I assumed, says Dave, the difference was in price was because you got more of one than the other. No, you get a gallon of each. No. Nigel in Trafford. Hiya, Nigel.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got?
Monday, you were talking about the organ donation thing.
We were.
And you did a throwaway comment at the end. You said if you got hit by a truck on your way home...
Yeah.
Why does it have to be a truck? I drive one of those.
Yeah.
And we're better than the other people that drive it.
Well, you may or may not be, but the reason I chose a truck, because if I was hit by a skate on the way home, I wouldn't be giving me organs away. If I was hit by a bicycle, I probably wouldn't be giving me organs away. But if I'm hit by a truck by 30, I'll not be giving out away, because I'll have an out, I'll be dead. That was why I picked a truck.
So I hope it was Johnny Foreigner driving this truck.
It don't matter who it was. If you're hit by a truck, whether you're Johnny Trafford or Jory Foreigner, if you're hit by a truck, there's more chance of you being killed than if you're hit by, say, I don't know, a pillow with feathers in it. They're quite big trucks, aren't they? We come to think... And they weigh a lot of...
They're well-driven, aren't they?
They may well be well-driven, and I didn't say if I was hit by a truck it'd be the truck driver's fault, did I? But
No,
you seem to think it would.
No, I said...
So you think they're crap? You think truck drivers are crap?
No, I am one.
Well, I don't know why you think they're crap, then. Because I said if I'm hit by a truck, and you assumed that if I was hit by a truck, it'd be the truck driver's fault.
Why, are you a bad driver?
I may not even be in a car. I didn't say. I said if I'm hit by a truck. And you thought that Allan Beswick, he thinks he's going to be hit by a truck because truck drivers are bad. That's what you thought.
I did. It was a throwaway comment. I thought you were having a dig there.
Well, and yet I thought truck drivers are really, really wonderful, but I'm quite stupid and could easily be hit by one. But you thought... But I don't know what it is about. What have you got against truck drivers that you think they would be the cause?
Nothing. We're all wonderful, except the foreigners.
Then why did you decide that I was implying that they would be to blame?
No, I didn't say you were implying. I just said that's what you refer to, truck drivers.
Indeed, and then you went on to defend them, as if they needed defending. I wasn't suggesting they were not bad drivers. I wasn't suggesting that they were going to be the cause of the accident. Only you thought that, Nigel. Only you.
I thought you'd have more chance of getting hit by somebody in a Range Rover on his or her phone.
You may or may not be correct, but when I said I may be hit by a truck driver, your immediate assumption was that it would be the truck driver's fault.
No, I just thought...
Then why have you rung? Why have you rung? If you didn't think I was implying it was the truck driver's fault, why have you rung?
Just to wind you up.
Well, you haven't managed it.
No worries.
I don't have any either. Do have a good day.
And you, Alan. Cheers.
Nigel says that truck drivers are the best of the drivers, particularly British ones. It must be the 5 stomachs that does it.
Post Watershed Wit and Wisdom with Sam Walker.
Officers were sat around in the police station in Adelaide, heard the sound of breaking glass, and found the criminal on the floor in one of the cells.
I would have liked it if one of them had said, "We're not trained for this. Let's call someone. We are someone." Oh, no.
Sam Walker.
Posh and Bex have bought each other magic necklaces.
They were hand-carved by a master carver in Japan who spends most days in meditation before working. What a load of rubbish!
Sam Walker.
Gilroy Silk is going to be in I'm a Celebrity, Get Me Out of Here. He'll have to keep heckling himself. Go back to my own country.
His job should be for koalas. I'm taking a koala's job.
Sam Walker.
Oh, for want of a cymbal and a drum kit. It's never here when I need it.
Tonight from 10 at BBC Radio Manchester.
Is he right, Nigel? Are truck drivers the best? They certainly get their own way most often, but that doesn't mean you're the best, does it? It just means you're a bully. Tony in Bury says, I believe that Bury Football Club kicked off at 3:15 because the surrounding pubs closed at 3:10, and this gave the spectators a chance to get to the ground in time for kick-off. Well, that makes sense. I mean, come on. You wouldn't want to watch Bury if you were sober, would you? That would be silly. That's just self-sacrificial. Dave from Shorley. Alan, can you ask if there are any pubs showing the Rugby League World Cup on Saturday morning? Of course I can ask that, and I have. What I wouldn't then do is say, because that would be advertising those pubs, and unless they're prepared to slip me a few quid. I mean, it's forbidden anyway on the BBC, but obviously, if I can be bought. Oh, God, yes, I've always been able to be bought. Stephen says, truck drivers, I love them. Especially when I'm behind 2 of them for 15 miles whilst they overtake one another or attempt to overtake one another on a dual carriageway, but can't because they're both restricted to 56 miles per hour. Stephen, your email seems to be somewhat contradictory. You say you love them, and at the same time, you accuse them of inconsiderate driving. I'm startled. Derek in Stretford. Hello, Derek.
Hi, Alan.
What have you got?
That driver that came on...
Who, Nigel?
I don't know what his name was. But,
no.
But tell him we had better drivers. I drove for a living for 40 years. And we had better drivers when the employers give them a test than what they've got now. The worst thing they ever did was giving them an HGV licence and thought they were kings of the road because they had a very good G8 licence.
Oh, I see. You mean in the days when there was no such thing as the HGV. You turned up looking for the job, and the bloke says, "Well, get in that one over there and park it in that bay. We'll see how you do."
That's exactly what they did. And another thing they said, and get that load sheeted up.
Aye, well, they don't sheet anymore, do they?
I know, but that was the test you drive. How long you get on good a drive you are.
I've done roping and sheeting. You know that funny knot? Was it called a half hitch? That funny knot you do.
It was called trucker's hitch, wasn't it?
Well, it was called a trucker's hitch, but I don't think that was its...
No, it's not half hitch. Half hitch is a different thing altogether.
Is it? But I know it's a clever knot anyway. All that twisting and turning and all that palaver and getting the sheet right. Oh dear God! Didn't they weigh a lot?
Oh, not half,
By God, they were heavy. Dear me. Yeah, and you had to work from the front to the back, otherwise the wind got under it and slowed you down. You ended up with a big balloon on the back.
But the truckers were then known as the gentlemen of the road.
They were the knights of the road. That's what they were, the knights.
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah, now they're the nightmares, in some people's view.
Oh, yes, of course. Everyone's got a different view.
Yeah, absolutely. But we have to go on the evidence.
Yeah.
Have a good day.
All right, thank you, Alan.
Cheers.
Bye.
0161 228 2255. Yesterday, you said the G word was the same as the F word. We all know what the F word means, but I'd still like to know what you mean when you say the G word. That's from David, who's persistent, if he's anything. Yeah. Well, I'll go through it again, and if it doesn't work for you, either I'm thick in my explanation or you're thick in your lack of comprehension. I concede immediately that it is almost the case that I'm thick. But here we go. The G word is cussing, cursing, as they say. Now, cursing itself is a word that has dubious origins, and its etymology will take you back to the days of witches and things putting a curse upon you. But these days, cursing, or cussing, as it's sometimes called, is actually a pointless act. The F word to which you refer, and we all know which one it is, the F word does refer impolitely to, should we say, human coupling. Yes, it does. Fornication and the like. But most of the time, the F word is not used as a means of saying, Madam, would you like to have sex with me? There are very few men who would use that word in that sense. Madam, would you like to have an F? Exactly. They wouldn't use it that way. If they said the F word, they would use it as an expletive, as we call it. Now, I do the same, along with many, many others. I do the same with the G word, God. We all know what God is supposed to represent. There are a variety of different views of what that word is meant to, or what creature, being, or what have you, that word refers to. But most people, at some point in their life, perhaps, use the word in an expletive manner, as indeed do I. So there. I hope that answers your question. Actually, no, I don't give a damn whether that answers your question. The reason is, it's not much of an email, but I'm sure it means something. The reason is nearly everybody bought diesels. Okay. I don't know what to say of that. Dave in Ratcliffe. Hiya, Dave.
Oh, Alan.
Hello.
Talking about knots.
Oh,
We
yes.
used to call them dolly knots.
Dolly knots?
Yeah. When I worked on a farm, I worked for some lads out of Cheshire, and we worked on the farm. And we used to tie all the bales on and everything and make dolly knots and pull them down so it tightened the ropes up.
Yeah, you need a brace, don't you, for this this kind of knot? You need the peg underneath the bed of the...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you thread it through, pull it round and pull it down as hard as you can. Well, they call them dolly knots.
Right.
Yeah.
I wonder what its proper name is then.
Well, these are lads out of Cheshire. I worked on a farm in Simister.
Well, they're all
They come from Cheshire, they come from Flixton.
Yeah, well, they're all a bit iffy, aren't they, then?
And the F word, if you want to use it in the proper context, was U4 coffee.
Oh, very good, yes.
You like that, do you?
Well, it's up that way. Thank you very much.
See you, Alan.
Have a good day. Dolly knots. What is the proper name for the trucker's knot? I'd be interested to know now. I think it's one of them itches. A double itch, or maybe it's a sheep shank. You have to pronounce that correctly when you've... Yeah. Maybe it's a sheep... Actually, a sheep... No, that's illegal. And besides, the wellies are at the back of your legs. A sheep shank. Yeah, that's a kind of knot. Is that... What's the proper name? Come on, there must be a Boy Scout listening, dear God. Put your stick down, put your three-cornered hat down and give us a call. Yeah. The trucker's knot. The trucker's knot for burning. Oh, no, a knot with a K. What's it called? What's its proper name? We've got dolly knots. Don't know what they are. Anyway, Tim in Connors Quay. Hello, Tim. Hello, Tim.
Right, just like to set the record straight for Stephen. I'm a trucker myself.
All right.
Yeah. We don't hold traffic up on purpose.
Do you not?
No, not at all. I'd like to know which hill he's been up for 15 mile, like, but...
Well, he didn't mention a hill. He mentioned a dual carriageway. He made no mention of a hill.
Basically, it's easier to keep a wagon going than to get it going.
That is for sure.
And the one thing that we taught when we learned to drive is to be economical with the fuel.
Yes.
Proper use of the gears.
Yes.
we're going up and down the gears, we're not economical on the fuel.
Indeed, but the purpose of a dual carriageway, this may have escaped your attention, but the purpose of a dual carriageway is to help the flow of the traffic so that vehicles that choose or are only able to travel at different speeds, the ones of the slower speed go in the left-hand lane and the ones that are able or choose to go at a higher speed go in the right-hand lane. And that's a fairly traditional thing in our road system and has been there since really we got the motor vehicle 100 years ago. But it does seem sometimes that some truckers haven't quite worked that out and they drive side by side on the dual carriageway and completely knacker the system. It's just an observation. You may have seen it.
I have seen it.
And you think it's acceptable?
There's no fast slow lane on the dual carriageway.
I didn't say there was. You may well want to put those words in my mouth, but I will spit them out at you, for I did not. I said it was the tradition. It is the name. It is the norm. It certainly isn't a dual carriageway so that two lorry drivers can sit side by side and knacker it for everybody else. I'm sure that's not in the highway code. Why don't we stop the flow of traffic? One of you could slow down a little bit, couldn't you?
Well,
couldn't you?
If you're in a wagon,
couldn't you?
Just a second. If you're in a wagon approaching another wagon,
yes,
that's going slower than you,
yes,
what do you do?
Well, you can either overtake it or slow down, but we're not talking about the wagon that goes. We're not talking about the wagon that goes quicker than the other one. We're talking about the wagons that go at the same speed. That was the very essence of Steve's email, the one to which you're responding.
But you're missing the point.
I'm not missing the point. I think you're avoiding the point of Steve's email.
No, you slow down. Yeah, right. Thus increasing your fuel consumption.
Well, that's not really my problem. I just want to get past you on the road that was designed to enable me so to do.
It was designed to enable a wagon to get past the other wagon.
But the other wagon doesn't.
Yes. What do you do then?
Slow down and get out the bloody way. How hard was that to work out? 1 on bit. Man, he was a trucker. Come on. All he can work out is the price of a chocolate bar. It's just gone 1 on BBC Radio Manchester. A very good day to you. News headlines.
2 schoolboys who kicked and punched a man to death as he sat on the steps of a nightclub in Bolton have been jailed for life. Afterwards, one of them filmed himself on his mobile saying the words, "eyes of a killer." The Cheshire Jugs giant, AstraZeneca, is planning to cut 1,400 jobs. Around 250 of those will be in Macclesfield. And the government wants drivers caught doing more than 20 miles an hour over the speed limit to get 6 points on their licence instead of 3. Manchester's weather dry, bright and windy, highs of 10 Celsius.
And that, of course, was Richard Stead. My
BBC Radio Manchester. 2020 traffic.
No major incident to tell you about, I'm afraid, at the moment. It's all looking good on the motorways, but Pollard Street is still closed. If you're heading inbound in town at the moment, the A662, still roadworks taking place around Malta Street and Great Ancoats Street. A diversion is in place by Every Street. And if you're heading into Macclesfield, still roadworks temporary traffic lights outside the A523 in London Road between Moss Lane and Star Lane. Expect some delays just near to Moss Rose FC. If you're heading towards that way, may cause a few delays. If you want to update us, though, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Mark Blackman.
BBC Radio Manchester.
With 2020 traffic through until midnight.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Oh, dear God, I've started summer now. Dave in Rossendale says, Alan, where is this pub where they serve a full pint? Camera have just handed a 23,000 plus signature petition to Downing Street calling for an end to short beer measures in pubs. Research shows that 1 in 4 pints are short by more than 5%. That's Dave in Rossendale. And then no signature. Dear Alan, can you tell me where I write to about the 2-tier interest charges? Darling? Brown? My bank? I don't see why my hard earnings should suffer a missing fragment. For God's sake, Alan, stop talking and give us a cuss. No, I said a cuss. A cuss, not a kiss. Dear God. It's a dolly knot. That was Lewis in Bolton. It's a dolly knot, Alan. Martin. I don't think that's its proper name. I'm going to look it up. Gary in Flixton. Hiya, Gary.
Hi, Alan. Regarding your asking about advice on these electric combi boilers.
Oh, yes.
I fitted, not as far as I'm aware, they don't do a combi boiler. They do electric boilers, where you have to have a cylinder.
No, they do an electric combi.
Well, I've not seen it, and I keep up to it. What was that in?
Well, it was in an house.
Was it? It might be an electric boiler with stored water.
No, it's not. It's a combi.
Oh.
Yeah, they do. Oh. Well, it depends on how you define combi, doesn't it? But it's an instant heat. You know, I mean, we've had instant hot water showers, electric showers, for donkey's years.
Yeah.
And it's a sort of larger version of that, but it heats the hot water. Yeah. It heats the central heating as well. Yeah, they do electric combi boilers. So you've come on to tell me they don't do them, which is a fat lot of use when I'm trying to find out whether they're any good.
Oh, yeah, I'm good.
How can they be? How can you say they're good? You don't know they exist.
The standard electric boilers, I fit them out.
Yeah, the standard electric ones are, but that's not what I was asking.
No, they are efficient. They are good. They're like 99.8 efficient.
Yeah, but the problem with the efficiency is that's all very well, but if you're doing one of these hot water cisterns, then you can heat up the water efficiently, but then of course you lose the heat if you don't use it immediately. So they are rendered inefficient by that process.
Being stored water, yeah.
Yes. So then they have developed. I mean, the process of heat, if you like, the source of the heat is either gas or electric or oil. Now, they've got gas and oil combi boilers. A combi boiler is merely a boiler that gives you instant hot water and heats the central heating if you choose it to do so. Yeah, well, that's the combi boiler, and there is an electric-powered version of that on the market these days. Well, you do that. You see, you came on here to educate me. I've ended up educating you.
I'm in the game, so that's one up on you, so there you go.
Good on you, Gary. Thank you very much indeed. Have a good day, mate. But there you are. I shall repeat the question. It's turned out to be quite interesting. Electric combi boilers, I know they exist, but are they any good? How efficient are they? What BTUs and all that gubbins do they chuck out? And who cares in the end anyway? John in Fairfield. Hiya, John.
Hello, Alan. I've got a family problem. My brother works for a small factory to do with the motor trade, and he's been told at the beginning of this week that he's been there for 12 months. He's been told at the beginning of this week that at the weekend some people will be made redundant and they will be named at the weekend. They will be dismissed instantly, and obviously he won't have them, if they're being made redundant, he won't have them on the premises in case of whatever might happen. And what I want to know is he entitled to any notice, or I have been there 12 months. I don't think he can be told on Friday, your sack don't come in on Monday.
Well, you can, but they have to pay you in lieu of notice.
Right.
So no firm is required, if they dispense with an employee's services, no firm is required to employ them for a period of time, but they are required to pay them for the period that their notice would normally have been. So if they are contractually entitled to a week's notice, then they must be given pay in lieu of notice. So that's the answer. So, yes, he's entitled to payment in lieu of notice. He's entitled possibly to holiday pay that he's not taken, but that would be contractual, but would need to be looked at. And there may be other things as well.
OK, now, if he's there for 12 months, how much notice will he require?
I can't answer that. How was he paid? How was he employed?
He's paid weekly.
Then almost certainly just a week's notice. But I don't know.
Yeah.
You need to check with a proper authority for that. I'm presuming that there's no trade union at the firm.
No, it's a small company, 50 to 100 people, something like that. The credit crunch is the excuse, and so many of you will be made redundant. I'll tell you on Friday who it is, and that's figured out. But I thought after 12 months he would be entitled to 3 months notice or pay in lieu.
No, not by any stretch of the imagination. It is almost certainly just a week, but I could be wrong in that. But it isn't going to be 3 months. That is for sure.
Okay, that was it. So you've answered it.
Okay.
Oh, before I hang up, there is one other little thing. Somebody was on about beer and drinks. Some time ago, the breweries were by law told they would have to provide oversized glasses to provide a pint with a head on it. And those oversized glasses were being phased in for quite some time. they've all disappeared now, and we're back to flat pint glasses. And if you have an inch or a half inch on top of it, you're not getting your pint.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember what happened to the oversized glass? I believe it was law that they would have to supply an oversized glass so you could have a pint if you wanted to, up to the line.
I think there've been many firms have been supplying those glasses anyway. The lines with the glasses with the lines on.
But I haven't seen. I live in Liverpool, and I haven't seen these oversized glasses in a long time. And they're getting a pint glass, and you're getting an inch or whatever it is on top, so you're not actually getting your pint. It must amount to an awful lot of shortages throughout the whole of the area.
I would think it does, yes. I would think it does.
So there's no law that says you have to provide the oversized glass?
I'm not aware of it, but then you'd need to be a lawyer for that, wouldn't you? And I'm not. Yeah. Let me have a look here. The minimum legal notice period given by an employer, is 1 week's notice if the employee has been employed by the employer continuously for 1 month or more, but less than 2 years. 2 weeks' notice if the employee has been employed by the employer continuously for 2 years, and 1 additional week's notice for each further complete year of continuous employment, up to a maximum of 12 weeks' notice. So your brother has been there for 1 year, he's entitled to 1 week's notice. Had he made it through a second year, it would have been 2.
Well, I'm glad you've given me the absolute answer on that one.
Well, that's as good as I can get it at the moment.
Well, that's brilliant. Okay, thank you very much.
Cheers, mate.
Thank you.
And thank you. Bessie in Stretford thinks the wagon driver's knot is called a clove hitch. There you go. The wagon driver's knot called a clove hitch. Possibly. It's no good looking at me. I'm not being pedantic, but trucks shouldn't be doing 56 miles per hour on a dual carriageway. The limit is 50, and the practice that Stephen referred to is called elephant racing. There you go again, you little toe rag, says Rick in Bolton. It's obvious you were implying truck drivers were bad drivers, because if you was not, you would have said a car driver, as there are far more car drivers on the road at one time than truck drivers, and you are much more likely to be hit by a car. I live in hope, says Rick. Well, I may well be more likely to be hit by a car, but if you remember, we were talking about organ donation. And from my point of view, you must make your own judgments for yourself, but from my point of view, for me to donate my organs requires that I be dead. And the chances of me being dead if I'm hit by a car are dependent upon the speed of the car. If it's doing 5 miles an hour, I'll probably just have a sore leg, and you're not having me heart. If it's doing 20 miles an hour, I've possibly got 2 sore legs, and you can still whistle for the heart. If it's doing 40 miles per hour, then I might be pretty badly injured, but you ain't getting the heart. 60 miles an hour, come and start digging in the ribs, because you can probably have the beggar. But if I'm hit by a truck, a 40-ton truck, doing 30 miles an hour, then possibly the heart's gone. So that was it. All the people that think I was having a go at truck drivers are merely people who think truck drivers are bloody awful drivers. And the surprising thing is that so many of them turn out to be truck drivers. Tony from Lee wants to know where the saying, "Bejesus Beju," comes from, and what it means. Well, bejesus is obviously by Jesus, but Beju, I've no idea. Never heard it. The second bit. Make a list of the worst cartography drivers. My number 1 are private hire drivers. I don't know what that means. Make a list of the worst category. Yeah, spelling mistakes are a nightmare on text. Make a list of the worst category of drivers. My number 1 is private hire drivers. That's Alex in Manchester. He could be right. I don't know. Thomas in Mossley.
Hi, Alan.
I'm all right.
Dollies.
Sorry? Dollies.
From 1968 to 1973, Thomas was a long-distance fully driver.
Say what?
I was a long-distance fully driver.
Oh, right.
And I had to dolly up on every load I carried.
So you're saying that it was the dolly, that's what the knot was called?
Yeah, the reason was there was a small loop at the top that looked like a doll's head.
Yes.
Then we wrapped it twice around the top of that loop.
You did?
And pulled it through, and that made it look like a doll, hence dolly.
Yeah,
It
and
might be a half hitch, as you say.
Ah, well, that's what I'm after, you see. It's proper name.
No, well, all I could say is that when we did it, we dollied up. And that was the term all used across the garage of 15 wagons.
Right. But you see, yeah. Dolly knot is the one I've heard, and the idea is it looks like a peg doll, doesn't it? That's the whole thing. And I've even gone on the internet now, and I've got a person here doing it, and it talks about pulling legs and all sorts of other things. There's a lot of leg pulling goes on. But it doesn't give... here we go. The basic principle of roping is you would start with a coil of rope at one end of the load, attach the rope to a hook at the other end of the load bed with a half hitch, a couple of inches from the end of the rope, make a small loop. So I think pull the long side of the rope through to make another loop which goes over the hook, pull tight, and if you like, repeat. That's it. Well, that, according to this, that is a half hitch, but it's also known as the dolly. So there you are.
Thank you, Alan.
It's all right. Thank you for helping me find out. Have a good day. Cheers. So the dolly knot, the proper name for the dolly knot is indeed the half hitch. Don't we all feel informed? Well, I do. Yeah. 0161 228 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Just pick up your phone and do your bit. And you can do it on the text and the email and all the other gubbins. Yesterday, I received an email from British Gas saying that they're putting up their prices as of the 30th of September. Is it legal to backdate the bill like that? I don't know. Ask Off Thingy. Yeah, ask them. With the traffic improvements in Manchester now preventing us from approaching Victoria Railway Station from one direction only, Great Ducey Street, Victoria Street, does anyone know what the red light is for on Victoria Station approach from Ducey Street? It's not a pedestrian camera, and there's no line to stop at when it turns red. I'm not a regular user of the station, says Chris, and I approached it on Sunday. It turned red, so I stopped where I thought I should stop because there's no line. I could see no reason to stop, though, and the van and taxi drivers behind me pulled out and passed me, giving me a look like I was an idiot. So I followed them. Does anyone know if this traffic light has just been left over from some other silly traffic project and forgotten about? There was also a railway's police car parked in the bay for the disabled, but it was empty, so I couldn't ask them. Well, perhaps it was a disabled police officer. You can't be sure these days, can you? Evelyn said, I've just looked up on the internet and it says the running costs of an electric combi boiler are astronomical. Yeah, well, that depends what you're comparing it to, doesn't it? It's no good rooting around in your ribs for your heart, Alan. Well, are you implying I haven't got one? But that's what your ribs are for. It's in there, it's under your ribs. Here's me ribs. There's the heart. It's all round there, just below the sternum, which is the middle bit. That's the sort of rubbery, bendy bit, isn't it? Where else would I look? It's going to take you a long while if you come from the other direction. The word F word is from the German fricken, as in to strike. Well, that may or may not be so, but that's not what it means today. When somebody says, I suppose an F's out the question, they don't mean, I suppose a strike's out the question, do they? They're not trade union leaders that say it, only. I've been held up behind many lorry drivers racing each other on dual carriageways. And I've always hoped that they knots were called nooses. Terry from Tilsley. Thank you very much indeed. You've been a great help. Here we go. Go to, and it's a website, this has a critique of gas versus electric combi boilers. Oh, well, that would be nice if you really wanted to do the research. That would be valuable indeed, would it not? Thank you for that, David in Crumpsall. But I was rather hoping somebody who had one was going to say, I've got one and it's dead good, or I've got one and I'm damn sorry I did. Well, personal experience, it's always the thing. There is a lot of wasted water with a combi boiler. You don't save much by changing from a hot water tank system. If you want hot water, you need to run off all the cold water in the pipes before the hot water appears at the tap. When you turn off the tap, that hot water left in the pipe is wasted. So to fill a bowl to wash the pots, you're actually heating twice as much water as you use. I've been trying to convince my wife that showering in cold water is better for her, but she's having none of it. My direct debit payment for gas has just been increased by 46%. I'll bet their phone lines are busy, says Kevin. Yes, I bet they are. I bet they're very, very busy, if that's what's going on. You're wrong. Our truck drivers are the best by far, particularly when they're awake, says Paul in Bolton. Well, there you are, then. Oh, here we go. Val in Birchwood has been doing some arithmetic on our behalf, and we're grateful to her for that. She says this. It's about the extra punishment, doubling the punishment in terms of points on your licence from 3 to 6. If you're convicted of speeding in a restricted area, which is everywhere, of course, if you're convicted of speeding and the speed you're convicted of is more than 20 miles per hour above the limit. And she says that arithmetically this is unfair, if you will. She just provides the statistics, if you like, the arithmetic. 50 miles per hour in a 30 miles per hour zone is 70% above the speed limit. 90 miles per hour in a 70 mile per hour zone is 30% above the speed limit. Should the punishment be the same? Well, they're clearly not pro rata, Val, in Birchwood, but there again, I don't know, maybe the offence is greater or lesser, I've no idea, but that would be a simple way of doing it. So people would go into court and argue, I was speeding, but I was only doing 89, I wasn't doing 90. They'll never prove that, so you'll have those sorts of arguments. But if it was proportionate, then you could say, well, I was doing 89, and they can't give you a third of a point, can they, really? So it'd be tricky. Anyway, thank you for doing the arithmetic. I had the same thought myself, but, well, didn't have a calculator, and I'm clearly not as clever as you, but then I'm not as clever as anybody. Just gone 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines. Richard Stead.
Two schoolboys who kicked and punched a man to death as he sat on the steps of a Labour club in Bolton have both been jailed for life. Afterwards, one of them filmed himself on his mobile saying the words, "Eyes of a killer." Rochdale Infirmary won't now force new mums to pay for their baby's formula milk. The Pennine Acute Trust wanted to make them buy £5 tokens, which could have been traded in for 10 bottles of milk. And Manchester's weather dry, bright and windy, highs of 10 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
All looking good on the motorways at the moment. Just checking on the cameras. No reported problems around the M56 at Shoston Link, and also around the M60 looking good at the moment. We still have Pollard Street inbound in Manchester, the A662. Still roadworks taking place around there. It actually closed around Pollard Street between Malta Street and Great Ancoats Street. A diversion is in place by Every Street, so do follow that if you can. Public transport is looking good too, but if you want to update us, call in on 0161 244 4951. I'm Mob Blackman.
BBC Radio Manchester, Sports with Will Perry.
Good afternoon. Another dismal day for England in India then. The hosts won the third one-day international by 16 runs using the Duckworth-Lewis method. It ended early because of bad light, with India on 198 for 5, chasing England's 240. Although the ground had floodlights, the rules stated they couldn't be used in day games. Captain Kevin Peterson says it was a chaotic end to the match.
Yeah, most definitely. But at the end of the day, we didn't play as well as India today. Again, we're getting closer. There's 4 games still to go, so if we keep improving, I'm sure we're going to pip them in the next game or so.
And how do the players feel? I mean, it's one of those where you sort of feel robbed at the end.
Yeah, they're devastated. The lads are not talking in the rooms. They're absolutely devastated. So, yeah, it's a bitter pill to swallow.
Manchester City have been given permission by the Premier League to recruit a temporary replacement for the injured Joe Hart. He's likely to be out of action for a fortnight with an ankle injury. But with third-choice keeper Richard Martin also injured, City only have 18-year-old Norwegian Tobias Johansen as backup for Kasper Schmeichel. Here's manager Mark Hughes.
We've been given permission if we want to bring in a goalkeeper on loan. We'll have a look and see what's out there. Obviously, it will be just a short-term situation. It's not as acute, this situation now, obviously, because Joe's fitness is likely to be resolved quicker than we initially thought.
Ghana's FA are considering a move to try and lure Manchester United striker Danny Welbeck to represent them on the international stage. Welbeck has played for England youth but has Ghanaian parents, thus making him eligible. Former commercial director of Manchester United, Andy Anson, has been appointed chief executive of England's bid for the 2018 World Cup. He'll take up his new role in January. Bolton striker Heide Helguson has joined QPR on a month's loan deal until the end of January. Helguson has struggled with injuries since moving to the Wanderers from Fulham last July. Oldham manager John Sheridan is facing an FA disciplinary hearing in Manchester today. His charge for improper conduct relates to the match against Tranmere 2 months ago when he was sent to the stands for allegedly abusing the referee. Well, the Latics face Southend this weekend, and Kevin Mayer has real belief that they can emulate something he achieved with the Seasiders, promotion to the Championship.
I think there's definitely the quality. What you've got to have is belief that you can do it. You know, look at what we did early in the season, went to Leeds and won. So there's nothing to be afraid of in this division, I don't think. And once you realise that, then, you know, you get the belief in the squad. You know, anything's possible. There's a lot of teams going to be challenging for the league, but if you can get consistency, then there's no doubt we can challenge.
With the club versus country debate the topic of conversation this week in rugby union, Sale's Mark Cueto believes introducing central contracts would devalue Guinness Premiership clubs. Cueto thinks the example of cricket should deter any move going ahead.
For them to allow the club to go to central contracts, I don't think it could happen. They've put that much investment into the club, it'd almost be devaluing the club, really. You look at cricket, for example, you know, the club side of cricket, it's almost non-existent. You never hear anything about the club game, and I'm sure there's been too many individuals that have put time and money to get the Premiership where it's at now, to then just sort of throw it all away.
Well, the Sharks go to Premiership champions Wasps on Sunday. We'll have full commentary here on BBC Radio Manchester with myself and Sale legend Steve Hanley. That's in the all-new Manchester Sports from 2 o'clock. Former St Helens coach Daniel Anderson has blamed volume of domestic matches on England's failure at the Rugby League World Cup. Anderson, who's just taken charge at NRL side Parramatta, thinks the England players can't be held fully responsible for their performances in Australia.
I've tried to mount some defence for the English. They have ultimately underperformed as far as the results go, but I understand the complexities of Super League and the funding requirements to put a team together, and therefore you've got to play more games. You know, you even have Christmas games as pre-seasons because they all raise funds. You can't possibly play 30-plus games in a season and then mount a serious challenge in the international arena.
Ricky Hatton's trainer Floyd Mayweather Sr. has spiced up Saturday's fight in Vegas, claiming Paulie Malignaggi poses no threat whatsoever. He also says the British public should expect to see a new and improved hitman. Ricky himself says he's been training harder than ever.
I've been working on new things, and if you don't do things in the gym, you're not going to do it in the ring. And that's what I've done in this camp, and I felt I've not done for a couple of years. And I'm not just saying it. Saturday night, as God's my judge here now, you will see a more improved and the best Ricky Hatton.
The next live action on the Northwest's biggest sports station.
Well, we've got full commentary of Manchester City's game with Arsenal on Saturday, plus coverage of all our league sides in action. That's from 1 o'clock. Then later it's over to Vegas for Hatton against Malignaggi.
Ah, yes, you see, they're having the fight live. I don't know what time the fight itself's supposed to kick off. You can't trust those satellite wallers. They tell you 9 o'clock. You tune in at 9 o'clock. You got 6 hours of utter bloody tedium before the fight kicks off. Well, don't bother with all that. We'll have top quality here, you see. Anyway, I'm not getting up to watch it or listen to it. Well, if I wake up, I might put my earpiece in and listen till I fall asleep, but I'm not getting up. I got up last time, but I'm not getting up now, because I think it may be his swan song. He said that himself. It might be his swan song. I've never heard a swan sing.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Not a swan singing, possibly not. 0161 228 2255. You've something to say, that's good. Tommy in Stockport. Hiya, Tommy.
Hello, Alan. I just wanted to make a comment on what you said before about truck drivers. And once again, you just managed to be able to offend people. You think you said, if I'm right, that truck drivers can just about work out the price of a chocolate bar. Where on earth do you reach where's your research to say they can actually achieve this?
Well, yes, I was being too kind.
You was on. I find it very, very offensive, I have to say.
It's one of my failings. I'm always too generous.
You see, the prerequisite to be a lorry driver, Alan, is you've got to have two very important attributes. You've got to be a bully and a bit thick, and you're halfway there.
Yeah.
But it's a as you've only got 10 minutes left on the programme, because you're going to get calls after this one.
No, I don't think I am. I don't think I am, because...
They probably already know that, don't they, really? They're probably praising me right now.
They probably are, yes. Well, that's all right. I've got your details here.
Can I just say something, Alan? On a very, very more serious note?
Please do.
The killing of that gentleman in Bolton, was it? The two youths who killed the... I think it was an Asian gentleman, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And there was some conversation, somewhere along the way, somebody was some racist. And the killer put on his mobile phone afterwards, was it eyes of a killer? Did he put, I think that
is what he said, yes.
Yeah, eyes of a killer. What he just should have gone a bit further, shouldn't he, really? Eyes of a killer, heart of a coward. Just a thought. But a more serious note than the lorry driver, obviously. Complete and utter cowards. People who do this, you're going to attacking people. What was he doing? Sat on the wall after a night out or something. And his crime was wrong place, wrong time, because some scumbag was walking past and decided that he wanted to, for whatever reason he's got. The same with Gary Newell, wasn't it? But I know, anyway, I'm probably going too deep there, but...
Well, no, you're not going too deep. I think there was a difference, and I'm not by any means diminishing the offence, but there was a difference with Gary Newell. You could at least work out...
he went out to them, didn't he?
Yeah,
I know what you mean, yeah.
You can see that conflict has happened, and it takes two to be in conflict, even if one of them is being utterly polite. It takes two. I'm not defending it. I'm not lessening.
I know where you're coming from.
But to actually just walk along and randomly decide that you're going to do harm to someone, that's worse and different.
It is, yeah. I mean, what was his crime? Was his crime that he's actually been in the wrong place at the wrong time, or was his crime that his skin was a different colour than theirs? You can. How can you get in mind a scum like that?
We may never know.
No.
But no, you can't. You can't get into the mind of people like that. It's very, very difficult. Very difficult to place yourself where they are. What we ask the authorities to do on our behalf is, first of all, to locate them, then to convict them, then to punishment, and then to start trying to understand them, not for their benefit but for ours, so that we can, A, learn from who they are, if you like, what they are and why they do things, and B, hopefully rehabilitate them so that they're not like that anymore. Now, the second bit of it is the hardest of all, I suspect.
Yeah, nigh impossible, I think, but I do know where you're coming from. But thanks very much for listening.
My pleasure.
Bye-bye.
Keep singing it for the truck drivers. Cheers, Tommy. Have a good day. 0161 228 2255. I must admit that I find the truck driver comment or even description uncomfortable. I prefer lorry driver, but then I'm an old traditionalist, as you know. Marion in Withington, with you in a mo.
One virus. At the time symptoms begin to show, the body's immune system's already been severely compromised. Millions dead. We're talking more than 90% of the world's population.
There are bound to be some people who are naturally immune. The lucky ones.
And for a few survivors, the end is only the beginning.
Our old life is dead. Now we have to build a new one.
Future, we can make it whatever we want. Survivors, brand new drama. Starts Sunday night at 9 on BBC One.
That sounds good, but they often do in the adverts, don't we? We'll have to wait and see. Oh, very good. Marion in Withington. Hiya, Marion.
Hello. What on earth has happened to the stars in the sky? I haven't seen a star in the sky for about 20 years.
Oh, my word, they were stolen.
Well, in the 60s, the skies were thick with stars, and I don't know why we don't see them now.
I can tell you if you really want to know.
I do.
Because of a thing called light pollution.
Right.
It's very hard to... This may sound daft, Marion, and you never see stars in daylight, do you?
No.
Do you know why?
No.
OK. Then they are there, but you don't see them because you need the contrast of the darkness to see the little pinpricks of light that are the stars.
Right.
Now, what happens now in our society is we have lights everywhere. Street lights are all over the place.
Yeah.
20 years ago, there were a lot fewer street lights. When I was a kid, and I suspect when you were a kid, there were no street lights.
Well, we had lamp lights.
But they were dull gas things, weren't they? They weren't very bright. Now, the great fluorescent things, and there's hundreds of them. And the trouble is, when you look out, when you look up to see the stars, you don't see them because it's light above you.
Well, what a shame.
I know.
It was a lovely sight, wasn't it?
It was.
You could almost touch them.
Yeah.
On a thick night, you know, a very starry night.
Yeah, they were fabulous, and we suffer the loss of that.
What a shame.
Yeah. The only way to see the stars properly now is to get out into the country, away from the unnatural light, but that's getting harder because there are motorways everywhere, and they even light the motorways now, which is utterly stupid in my view, but there you are.
Well, I was just wondering anyway.
Well, that's where it is.
OK, thank you.
All right,
Bye-bye.
cheers. 0161 228 2255. So there you are. It is light pollution, and they grumble about it even at Jodrell Bank, where you'd think they wouldn't be bothered because it's a radio telescope, but they grumble about it even there. Astronomers have been ranting on about it for donkey's years because, frankly, well, they just dislike it. It's making their job harder. That's why we got that space station, you know, the Hubble telescope. That's why we got that, because it went beyond the Earth's atmosphere and then beyond the concept of light and was able to make all the observations that were disbarred to us. It wasn't because they were a bit nearer, because after 96,000 trillion light years, 250,000 miles nearer doesn't make much difference, really. It was the darkness that made it better. But what do I know? That sounds like astrology or astronomy, which is astronomy, and I'm not very good at that. So bad at it, in fact, that I've just called it the wrong thing. But there you are. Nobody cares. Yeah, I mean, I'm worse at reading the stars. I used to do the stars because it was always quite funny. Should we do them? Why would it? Go on, let's do them. Which stars do you want? I can't find them. I used to read them on the programme every now and then when I was on the breakfast thing. I used to read the stars out. I had different ones every day. I didn't do the set. Let's see what the star. I only read mine, obviously. I didn't give a toss about anyone else. I just read mine. Can't even find them now. Do they still do them? Got Radio Choice, Critics' Choice. Oh, dear. Who's she? Zena Gibson. Never heard of her. Oh, she suffers from ME. Oh, well, that's why she's in the paper. Well, there must be another reason, otherwise everyone would be in a bit. I can't find. Does anyone know what page the stars are on in the Mail? You might as well get the fascist stars. Find out what the baddies are saying. Not in, the footsie struggles to stay above 4,000. Oh, does it? Yeah. Dennis is telling us how to get rich. I don't even know who Dennis is, do you? I can't do them if I can't find them. That's all there is to it. We'll be there. Whilst I'm scanning through here, I'll tell you about tomorrow. Tomorrow, you're not invited. You're invited to listen, but you're not invited to turn up. They won't let you in. But tomorrow, we're doing the whole 2 hours from a nightclub. I know it's day. Don't be silly. I don't think they realise when we said 12 till 2, let's do it in a nightclub. Then somebody said it's lunchtime. We'd already booked it then. And so we're going to a nightclub called Clouds 23, which is halfway up the fish finger, if you want to know. So we're going to that. We're going halfway up a fish finger, and we're getting the sort of it's Jonathan Cain, and he makes a fortune doing this, and then they hide him. Well, I never found him. Yeah, and so we're doing a whole question and answer debate-like thing about the, I better call it right, I don't want to get in any trouble, the TIF proposals. Yeah, so we're going to do that. And they're going to be experts, and they're going to be leaders of opinion, and also rands of opinion, all sorts of people there who've all been invited to put their view about the congestion charge, as you call it, the TIF proposals, as it's formally called. And the idea, from my perspective, is to get as much information about the issues as we can, not to row and wrestle each other to the floor to see who wins, but to actually get the information. What does it mean? And what's the implication of those meanings? So that's the plan, and we'll do that between 12 and 1 tomorrow at the nightclub. And then I'm stopping there and talking hopefully to you when you can perhaps be a little more informed about the proposals, and we can have a conversation then about whether you think the whole thing is a good thing or a bad thing. Right, stars, Libra. Jonathan Canan in the Daily Mirror. So 12th of the people on the planet, this applies to you. You can't do everything. You can't be everywhere. You can't please everyone. But you can try. Oh, how you can try, and what damage you can do to yourself in the process of making that effort. He understands me. He understands me to a T. The energy you can expend, the guilt you can wallow in, this is me. The agonising indecision you can experience, the sense of inadequacy that you can develop. Do you deserve a hard time? No, you deserve a good time. Stop winding yourself up into a frenzy of unnecessary anxiety. And that's what you can have. And if you want some more, ring blah, 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 blah for £5 an hour. Yes, how interesting. He never said anything. Not a thing, you know. You can't do everything. Well, all that's true. Yeah. Pisces, the world is full of people. Is it really? The world is full of people who are trying to change the world. Perhaps that's what's wrong with it. Perhaps if we really want to make it a better place, all we need to do is get rid of the folk who are trying to make it a better place. What? Gemini? Gemini, you're going to die at 3 o'clock. It's rough, innit? Never mind. Gemini, we are sailing home again across the sea. That's a Rod Stewart song. How can he charge money for that? Dear God. Hey, I'm going after that right in the stars job. Whoever put me balaclava with the flowers on. I'll see you tomorrow. Ta-da now.
Hear about the Jewish...